Now, today we're going to talk about hip hop artist, ex-boyfriend of Meg, and the real victim in this entire situation, Tory Lanez. Now, before you say anything, free Tory Lanez. It is obvious that this man did not commit this crime. Nothing about this fits him. Nothing about this makes sense. The fact that the friend got immunity and she pled the fifth and she still never answered the questions of the prosecutor, that says a lot. The color of the gun, the fact that a man does not carry a colored gun like that already shows that there was a female involved in this. And Meg's friend is most likely the person who did the shooting. But they'll never say that. They always want to make it seem as if Tory just went out and did this and none of the evidence lines up. And all we have is Meg lying, her friend lying, and the only person who didn't say anything, Tory Lanez, appearing to take the fall in this case. So, with that being said, we need to take a look at the chart of Tory Lanez because there's a lot of information in here. Tory Lanez reminds me of a lot of men that I know, and he's made a lot of mistakes that men have made and that I myself have made. And so Tory Lanez definitely needs to be looked at and needs to look at his chart for further instructions on what to do about this entire situation and about his life in general. Now, Tory is a good old sun in Leo, and already we get started with that ego. You see, Leos can be warm, they can be kind, they can be friendly, they can be well liked, but when it's talking about Leo, that already means that that ego is strong, that sense of self is strong, and that's a big deal when it comes to ego is me. Leo is basically ruled by the sun. And when you talk about the sun, you talk about the center of the solar system. And Leo does believe that I am the center of the planet. I am the center of your life. And basically, when it comes to Leo, that's their mentality. That's how big their ego is. But it goes even further with Tory. Now, we have to talk about Moon in Cancer. And this is where Tory really got in trouble. You see, Moon in Cancer is highly emotional, extremely emotional. It is one of the most emotional signs that a person can have. And so Tory can tap into those emotions. It allows him to relate to women because Cancer is a caretaker sign. Cancer is nurturing. Cancer is kind. And so that's one of the reasons why Tory is able to relate to women is because that moon sign is highly feminine. And it doesn't mean that he's feminine. It means that he understands and works well with feminine energy. And so with that being said, Tory being emotional is going to play into this chart a lot because those emotions tend to get him into trouble. And when it comes to men, we don't talk about emotions enough. And so with that being said, look for that being a factor when we move into other things when we talk about Tory in this chart. Now, the next thing is we've got Mercury in Leo again. So that's strike two for that ego. You see, Mercury has to do with that egotistical communication. It has to do with someone who is very forceful with their communication. They're often wise. Their voice is often attractive. And so they are often people who speak up and speak out normally. But we'll see that Tory has issues with that. But his Mercury sign allows him to be able to speak out, to have that egotistical kind of talk. And we know that if you've listened to Tory Lanez's song and his music, that definitely he has a big ego when he talks about things in his music and in his songs. Now, we have to talk about Venus in Leo. Once again, Leo is a big factor. So we have a stellium here. And when you're dealing with a stellium, that's a concentration of energy. That means that this is a big deal. That means that this person often personifies whatever sign that the stellium is in. So his Venus, the way that he loves is Leo. I'm the center of attention. You got to pay me attention or you got to get up out of my face. Venus and Leo has to be the star of the show. Venus and Leo has to be loved. You have to stroke their ego. You have to pay attention or Venus and Leo will begin to believe that you don't exist. You are basically particles in the air if you don't give Venus and Leo that attention. So that stellium says that I am the center of my universe. My ego is big. My pride is big. And that's one thing about Tory that has gotten him in trouble, that he's admitted in songs, and that it got him in trouble in this particular relationship. His pride, his ego, it was his downfall in this situation. But let's keep going. Let's discover why his pride and his ego was such a problem. We get into Mars in Gemini. And when we talk about Mars and Gemini, we got a communicator. We got a slick talker. We got a man who can talk the panties clean off a woman. And that got him in trouble. That gets a lot of men in trouble. You see, he can say that thing. He can say what brings down her defenses. He can make her do things she didn't normally think she'd be doing. She didn't think she was going to sleep with you, but you cracked that joke. You said that thing that no other man has said to her. You were witty. You were intelligent. And when you're dealing with an Aquarius, like Meg Thee Stallion is, he stuck out because of that, because of his intellect, because of the fact he was witty, because of the fact he was different. He knew how to appeal to her mind. You see, Gemini, if nothing else, can appeal to your mind. It's almost mind control on a certain level. And so Tory knows how to appeal to a woman's mind. And he can talk her panties off. But sometimes when you have that ability, you can talk yourself right into trouble. And here's where we get into the big factor. We got Saturn in Aquarius. And who has Sun in Aquarius? Who's the big Aquarius in the picture? You guessed it, Meg Thee Stallion. She was his lesson. She was his karma in the situation. You see, Saturn and Aquarius, their lesson is how to deal with people, how to deal with friends, how to deal with their circle. You see, that points out that Tory was making the wrong decisions. He was surrounding himself with the wrong people. Kylie Jenner ain't nobody you should really want to surround yourself with. That family ain't a good family. Meg Thee Stallion ain't a good woman. She's not a good person. That's not a woman you want to surround yourself with. And any woman that is competing and double dipping in you while Meg is her friend is not a good woman. And so Tory's lesson, the thing that Tory got spanked for by Daddy Saturn, was the fact that he didn't check his crowd. He didn't check the people that he was around. And so his karma was that this energy, this need to fit in, because Aquarius is weird, but this Saturn means that you needed to fit in. Your desire to fit in is what got you in trouble, because you tried to fit in with someone who was toxic to you, and you didn't pick up on this. And that's why Tory got spanked, and that's why his lesson and his karma came. But there are other factors behind this. Mercury opposition Saturn. Now, this is a problem because Tory didn't tell the truth. You see, when Mercury clashes with Saturn, this is someone who holds back the truth. They often don't speak up because they fear being judged. And a lot of men, just like Tory, don't tell women the truth because we fear being judged, or we fear what she'll say. We fear she'll walk away if we tell her the truth. And a lot of times that causes more trouble than not. You see, Tory never told Meg that she was boring. Tory never told Meg that she was toxic. Tory never said things that he probably should have told her from the jump. You know what? I like getting the yams, but it's boring. I'm no longer interested. The thrill is gone. You know what? I got to move on. See, Tory should have done that, but men often don't do that out of ego, out of pride. I don't want her to not think I'm not the man. I don't need her to think that I'm weak. So I ain't going to show my feelings. Let me tuck this in. Let me not say this. And sometimes the things that you think about not saying are the very thing that you should be telling women. Sometimes you got to tell that woman the truth, even when it hurts. And sometimes holding back and not telling the truth can bite you more than the truth would have. Mercury square Pluto. See, this is Tory's mouth getting him in trouble. You see, they say that two people tell the truth. Drunk people and angry people. And on that night where he got into an argument with Meg, Tory was probably both. And so what came out when he finally told the truth was something that's cutting. You see, Pluto has a sharp mouth. That's that Scorpio. That's that stinger. That's when I finally tell you the truth, I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm going to tell you that coochie wasn't no good and that your friends was better because I want to cut you. That's what happens when you put that Mercury in the wrong place. And so Tory decided to finally bubble up and tell the truth, and it was venomous, it was hurtful, and he was hurt. And he said the wrong thing, and he hurt Meg's ego. And that's what really kicked off this whole thing, is that when he finally told the truth, he didn't just say the truth. See, there's a difference in telling the truth and then telling the truth to hurt you and telling the truth to embarrass you. See, one is just to get it out in the clear and get it out in the open. The other is, I'm going for the jugular. I want to hurt your feelings. I hurt your ego. And whatever he said to Meg hurt Meg's ego, and Meg is egotistical. So that was a trigger. That smacked her right in the face. And it hurt her. And it hurt her in front of other people. And she'll never say it. She'll never admit it. But whatever Tory said was something that was cutting. It was hurtful. And definitely it was something that brought out the bad side of Megan Thee Stallion. Now, Venus square Pluto. Before we get into exactly the mechanics of this situation, we need to talk about Tory's decision making. Venus square Pluto means I don't choose the right women for me. I choose the toxic chick. I choose the chick that is going to bring me down. I choose the chick that I get into an argument with over a healthy relationship. And then those relationships crash and burn, and then I end up with my heart broken. And not only that, I end up in a love-hate relationship. At first, I had her obsessed with me. You see that Venus, it get her all in love. I get her all on my jock. I got Meg coming and catching flights. She got to be here at the house. She got to get slayed every day. I am pure addictive. I can't do no wrong. I could blow air and I'm going to make that thing jump. It's over with. At first, he got her obsessed. And that's why Meg was lying to her team and coming to see him. He had that girl hooked. He had her obsessed. But eventually, when it comes to it, that Pluto, that bubbling up, that obsession, that anger, that hatred, that secret, that resentment, all of that begins to turn the relationship from love to hate, to I can't stand you. And they, even to this day, when you look at when those things are brought up, when you look at Meg's face when it's brought up, when you look at Kelsey's face when it's brought up, it's some hate there. It's some anger there. It's some, ooh, I used to love him. I can't stand his guts. It went from, ooh, I can't get enough of Tory Lanez to, if he ever come within 50 feet of me, it might be some legal issues. See, that love and hate is what happens in a relationship. And Tory Lanez makes these bad decisions because he chooses women through who he can, deal with his dark side through them. Those are the type of women that he chooses. See, a lot of time we don't tell people in these relationships that you're choosing the person who you can work your demons out with. You're not choosing the right person. You're choosing the person who you can have that fight with that you never had with your mom and your dad. You choosing bad mama, the mama that you had that didn't give you the nurturing. You choosing that. You choosing that cold dude who has that aura that your daddy had when you met him that one time. Or you having an argument with that dude who you wish you could really have it out with your dad, but instead you keep meeting your dad over and over and over. And see, Meg was doing the same thing. She invited in the same argument, the same fight that she had with her father. Sometimes we are having these traumatic episodes over and over and over, and we're not making the right decisions because we haven't handled our issues. Tory did not handle his issues, and he ran into a woman who was the same trauma that he had been running from his whole life. You see, that trauma follows you until you deal with it. And that's why Tory made that bad decision. And that's why he's dealing with these bottom tier women who really don't deserve who he truly is. But instead, he's dealing with that fight and he's dealing with that dog. And until he comes to a point of resolution with himself, all of his relationships are going to be conflicted. Sometimes you got to go within and you got to deal with your own mess before you can deal with somebody else, before you can have a healthy relationship. And Tory is not to that point where he can have a healthy relationship because he ain't resolved it within himself. And neither was Meg. Saturn square Pluto. Now we get to the part where we fallen. Now we get to the part where you've done too much and Daddy Saturn got to come in and spank you. And not just spank you hard. I'm talking about spank you to your core. I'm talking about them whoopings where you lay on the bed and think about life and you can barely move because you didn't got the brakes beat off you. This is one of them ones where, your parents caught you skipping school for a week. This is one of those big ones where you definitely made a huge mistake and now you got to pay for it. And the payback is real tough. It's real big. You are hurt so bad, you are crumbled to the ground. And now with that Pluto energy, there's always a redemption. There's always that Phoenix energy, but it's tough. It is hard. Daddy Saturn comes in and he laid a whooping, he laid a spanking on you. And it's so tough, it's so hard that you are forced to learn your lesson. There is not one of us on planet Earth that is exempt from dealing with Daddy Saturn. Daddy Saturn is the lesson that you gonna get. And Tory, with this Saturn in Aquarius, his lesson was, you gonna learn about your circle, boy. Daddy Saturn walked in the room and said, you gonna learn about these girls you've been running around with, boy. You gonna learn about these dudes up under you who keep gassing up your head and telling you, Tory Lanez, and you need to have the baddest thing in the game. You gonna learn about that, boy. It's time for that whooping. Daddy Saturn took the belt off and Meg was the belt and pop, laid the spanking on him. And that's what Saturn does. It is the big lesson to us. It is the lesson that you will get or either you will crumble. You got to get that lesson. And so Tory has received this destruction in his life. He has lost things. He took losses because of the choices that he made and because of the karma that he didn't deal with. And Saturn will always deliver on that karma until you come to a resolution with what needs to be handled. Boy, you better look at your circle the next time before we have to go even worse. Before you get 35 minutes instead of 10. Saturn will get gradually worse because Saturn is strong. Saturn grows with time. And so if you don't learn that lesson, it gets worse. It gets worse every single time. And so this is the breaking point that Tory is at because he didn't learn. Now, we got to deal with the big bad that is in Tory's chart. Lilith in Aquarius. Now, Lilith is the woman that can break you. Lilith is the woman that will destroy you, because Lilith is rebellious energy. It is our dark side, yes, but for a man in his chart, it shows the type of woman that will utterly destroy you if you deal with her. The type of woman that has the characteristics that'll trigger you. It has the woman who will put you out of your emotions. Think about it. Tory is moon in Cancer. This woman had him out of his emotions, because Lilith in Aquarius, your dark side, and Tory's dark side is that he is cold. But also that's what triggers him. That coldness from Meg, that Aquarian coldness. Because Aquarius don't always show that emotion. So Aquarius will go, I'm not feeling you like that. I really didn't like you like that. And say it like it's nothing. And for Tory, who thrives on emotion, who thrives on a woman who's feeling him, who thrives on a woman who strokes his ego, that's a trigger. And so that woman will involve you in situations that will bring you down. Lilith in Aquarius is the woman who brings about your total destruction. So you have to know your Lilith, because you got to know what type of woman will trigger this. What type of woman is going to make me respond the wrong way? What type of woman that'll have me doing a bid upstate because I lost control of myself, because I was on the liquor and then I paired that up with her and now I'm out of control. Now I'm in a situation where now I lose everything because I got triggered, because I got too emotional about the wrong kind of woman. And not only that, this Lilith is in that 11th house. So that's Tory's friends. That's the people that are around him. So not only was it Meg, but these are Tory's friends. See, not watching his circle. See, we just talked about Saturn spanking Tory for not watching his friends. But Lilith in the 11th house means that you got some dark corners where you're not dealing with the people in your life. You're not looking at the people who are around you, boy. You shouldn't have had Meg around you. She wasn't supposed to be there, but now you triggered. Now you acting out of pocket. Now you struggling with the friend over the blicky. Now you going down for something that you didn't do, but you were around it. And now the world looks at you as if you did it because you were wrong place, wrong time, wrong woman. And all of a sudden you're in a situation where you've lost things. And Lilith ain't even done with you yet. Tory has Mercury opposition Lilith. And what does that mean? It means that when Tory is triggered, he can miscommunicate. He can say the wrong thing. And that's what that phone call was. That's exactly a textbook case of what that phone call was. Tory could have been apologizing for, you know what? You found out that I was still doing Meg and still doing you. And I said I was going to choose you and leave her alone. And then we still doing this back and forth thing. You know what? I'm sorry for it. But when you listen to that phone call, a lot of people assume that it was guilt. Tory was in his emotions. And when his emotions bubble up, when he's triggered emotionally about something, he starts talking and talking too much. That Mars and Gemini get to kicking. And he gets to, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry, you know what? He's saying anything. He got diarrhea of the mouth. And he's triggered. He's emotional. Moon in Cancer. This is an emotional man. So Tory, if he had an astrologer, this is why you need an astrologer in your side, on your side, in your back pocket. It's because when Tory gets emotional, things come out that he might not necessarily mean. And he needs someone to tell him, you know what, bro? You need to hold it down. Yeah, you emotional right now. Hold it down. Take a second to think about it before you say it. Because somebody recorded that phone call. And I believe I know who it was. Somebody had to record this phone call and say, you know what, I'm going to call him. Or this is Tory's number. Or this is Tory from jail. Let me record him. Somebody set that up. But with that being said, you got to watch what you say at the wrong time and who you say it to. Venus opposition Lilith. See, Lilith ain't done with Tory Lanez. Lilith jumped in on the spanking too. This is choosing the wrong woman because you want to fit in. Choosing the wrong woman for maybe that clout. Choosing the wrong woman because deep down you ain't handled your inner darkness. See, you ain't handled the things that made you choose, Meg. And again, we're repeating this. See, we're doubling up on the things that kept punching down on Tory. And all of that karma, all of those lessons, all of that triggering, all of those barreling, all of that came to a culmination at the same spot. You chose Meg for the wrong reasons. And you chose someone who was part of your dark side, who did not bring you into a better place. This woman only brought you down. This woman only brought you some triggering. And now all of these things have come to cook on the stove at the same time. And now the pot's bubbling over. All because you chose the wrong one for the wrong reasons. Saturn conjunct Lilith. And this is telling because Saturn, planet of lessons, and Lilith, that being triggered, are both at a bad and a good angle. Conjunction means it's half good, half bad. See, Saturn and Lilith conspired together to teach you a lesson. They conspired and said, you know what? There's going to be a beatdown. And there may be some redemption after the beatdown. You may learn after the beatdown, but we're going to come in and we're going to make sure that the lesson is enforced. Because Saturn conjunct Lilith means that in your circle, you didn't check those people. Once again, we got that message repeating all over again. Saturn Aquarius, Lilith Aquarius. Same issue, doubling up ×2. And then they're meeting at a clash. So this means that who Tory was around, the people that he kept up under him, the people that he affiliated with, all of this, once again, is adding to this fiery gumbo of a bad situation. And then finally, we got Pluto square Lilith. This is your dark side. This is Meg. This is that entire situation. This is those toxic women all bringing you ruin. This is the type of person where you're going to be hated for that dark side. See, Tory Lanez has that dark side, and his dark side is that he always remains independent. He always remains aloof. He doesn't check his circle. And so that came back to bite him. All of that stuff culminated in him choosing the wrong woman because Meg is an Aquarius. That's already the sun sign, all of that. She is the epitome of your karma, of your punishment. Meg is the fruition of you making bad decisions. And a lot of men make bad decisions like Tory out of ego. We make bad decisions out of, you know what, I'm going to go get the one that all the homies said that I couldn't get. I'm going to go get the one that's going to break their neck whenever she walk by. And that same woman turns out to be toxic. She turns out to be the one that ends you up in the slammer or puts you in a bad financial situation or gives you that disease or gets pregnant and then it ain't your kid. All of that toxic stuff comes from you choosing the wrong woman out of your ego. Out of your need to fit in, out of your need to try to bond with the wrong people and put the wrong people in positions around you. Saturn was screaming at Tory, don't do this. Don't choose the wrong types of women. And then Lilith was running back up and saying, you know what? There's going to be a price for that. There's going to be some lessons behind that. Your dark side will teach you. Everyone has a dark side. Everyone has a shadow. And your shadow is that you were so rebellious. You always choose rebellion over having healthy relationships. And now you're being punished for that need to be rebellious, for that need to chase freedom, for that need to have so much ego and chase all of the wrong women. They all came together to spank you. And I feel sorry for Tory because men are often not told the things that will bring us down. We're often not warned about the women that'll bring us down. And so that's why you need an astrologer. That's why you need someone to go in and look at this stuff, because sometimes you can't see it. A lot of times when people come to me and they say, oh, that's not true, that's not true, you ain't going to see about you in your chart, because there are certain things that are in your blind spot. Your shadow is your blind spot. A lot of times you're not going to figure that out until you run into a situation like this or worse. Then you have to face it. When you're doing that 15 to 20 bid, now you got time to face your shadow and your dark side. After he done got you pregnant and then left and you don't even know his first name and where he lived, now you got time to deal with your dark side for 18 years. So with that being said, this is why you need astrology. This is why you need an astrologer on your side. And so tomorrow we're going to look at the dynamics of this relationship between Tory and Meg. Yeah, we talked about them separately, but we need to look at how both of them contributed to this mess in order to truly understand it.